So what's up, trade crew? Welcome back to the HVAC R&D podcast hosted by HVAC Rhino. I hope you've all been enjoying the most recent episodes and guests. Tonight's guest has been owed a show for far too long, and I'm glad to finally have the time for us to sit and chat together. So I say, let's get this party started, shall we? Let's get it going? Yeah, come on. What's up, everybody? HVAC R&D is powered by, well, insert company name here, because that's right, I'm still looking for the next HVAC R&D powered by sponsor. If you're interested, please reach out via hvacrnd.com or hvacrnd@gmail.com, and I will send you the 2024 press kit. Additionally, R&D is supported by Platinum sponsor One Thing Marketing, your trusted marketing partner for helping you make your business successful through all means possible. Reach out and schedule a meeting with them today through their link in the hvacrnd.com vendor hub, because one thing can change everything. I'm also grateful to the AHR Expo, Bosch Home Comfort, Insight Partners, Hobbs & Associates, and the family of brands, as well as the More Sales Corporation for their support to see HVAC R&D lead the 2024 AHR Workforce Development Team that has been working with Chicago's Prosser Career Academy and High School, a local high school with a dedicated HVAC program trying to help bring the next group of tradespeople to the industry. Additionally, Bosch has agreed to step up even more in the coming months to help this school with other products for the lab as well as training for their instructors, and I could not be happier to have such dedicated partners on board for this project. If you're interested in helping with the school as well, please reach out to me and I'll see what we can do to get you involved. But if this is your first time listening to the show, welcome you. Thank you for taking your time to give us a shot. HVAC R&D is based in North Carolina, and the show is focused on research and development within the trades. What does that mean? It means the main objective is the pursuit of building a better, more knowledgeable community of HVAC professionals and fellow tradespeople by learning from the past and embracing new advances in the industry to help us all be better for the future. If you're not following us online, please go find the show on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd. LinkedIn, Trade Hounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D podcast. And if you're not listening to the weekly shows, you can find them anywhere you listen to your podcast, whether it be Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, or about another 20 different platforms. Please follow us, like and rate the show, leave me a review, share me with your trade crew. If you want to work with me again, please reach out through hvacrnd.com. And also, while you're on the website, go check out the swag shop and use discount code AHR for a 25% off bonus to all of your purchases. And also, please join the mailing list at the bottom of the page. But now, what you've all been waiting for. This week, we've got another Instagram sensation. You've seen him showcasing his work as a lead installer for Hometown Heating and Cooling, slinging some Bosch and some other brands. We're kind of partial to the Bosch on this show, though. He's a founding member of the HVAC Visionaries, along with several other friends of the show, and I'm pumped to have him joining me from Maryland this evening. So please give my friend Garret Torre a big welcome to the HVAC R&D podcast. Let's freaking go, trade crew.
What up, what up?
What up, man?
Not much. This weather's been pretty terrible this week for us up here, but other than that, can't complain.
I'm surprised you can't hear the wind howling down here right now. We're getting like 35 to 40 mile an hour gusts just flying through. No rain yet, but the rain's coming, I'm pretty sure. I know I talked to my dad about 2 or 3 hours ago, and it was raining up in the mountains for Cajun Joe, so I'm sure it's coming this way.
Yeah, we've had probably 3 or 4 days straight now.
It was a little I ran into a little bit yesterday. I had to drive up through Banner, Elk, and Boone to go drop off some stuff to a customer of mine. So I had a good 5 hours of windshield time yesterday. There's a little bit of rain, but not too much. It was nice that it kind of stayed away because it's no fun trying to drive those old mountain roads in the rain.
No, I can imagine.
But, well, as most all of you know, we usually like to start this show with cracking a beverage or seeing what we're getting into before we get started. So, I know you know how this works. So what'd you bring to the show tonight, brother?
A little Jack and Coke to sip on.
There it is.
What about you?
So, I am drinking a local brew. It is a Cheerwine Ale from Noda Brewing. So if you've ever had a Cheerwine, some people have that listen to the show, some people haven't. But it's a cherry flavored soda. It's local to Salisbury area, which is very close to me. There is quite literally a Cheerwine festival every year that is packed with all kinds of street vendors. They shut down all of downtown Salisbury. It's pretty cool. Noda Brewing has been around in Charlotte for, I know, at least over 20 years. They're based down in the Noda area, which is North Davidson, which is kind of a schwanky little part of Charlotte. But this was kind of a showcase of two local companies bringing two great local flavors together. And I will be honest, when you crack this thing, you can really get the cherry smell from a Cheerwine.
Is it like a carbonation? Like a carbonated drink?
So a regular Cheerwine would be. It's like a cherry flavored soda. But it's got great cherry notes in this brown ale. So it's a wheat ale made with natural artificial cherry flavors, just like the soda. It's pretty smooth to drink, man.
Yeah, sounds tasty.
It's very tasty. 5.2% in a pint. So a uniquely southern wheat ale crafted with the perfect touch of cherry. Proudly presented from two family-owned companies in the Carolinas. So,
you guys got a lot of breweries down there?
Dude, it is crazy.
Yeah?
It's crazy. I feel like there's almost a new brewery every other week somewhere. And it's blown up in Charlotte. Obviously, everything blew up in the Asheville area, about an hour from where I grew up. Especially when Sierra Nevada put a brewery and a tap room there years ago. So there's a pretty solid craft brew scene in the Carolinas.
I gotcha.
What's funny though is I would see people periodically years ago going through grocery stores in the Concord area, and I would see this person just have buggies full of Cheerwine. And I'd be trying to figure out, like, really, are you that obsessed with it? And I had just checked out, and someone behind me was coming through with just a ton of Cheerwine. And I heard the girl at the cashier that was ringing everything up ask them, like, do you guys just drink a lot of Cheerwine, or what is it? And these people they were older, they were retired, and they would literally drive from like Connecticut, Maryland, all over the Northeast. They would drive down to the Salisbury area and buy just cars full of Cheerwine because they would have money from all their friends that drink it but can't get it. So they would just like take it. They would take 2 days of a week, drive down, just load up the van and go back. It's the funniest thing.
A little hustle for sure.
Little side hustle.
Yeah.
Never thought about long distance soda runs, but
No, I mean, yeah. It's not illegal.
No, not illegal. I guess trafficking Cheerwine across state lines. I don't know.
Cheerwine, I don't know. Tax man, yeah, IRS gonna come after you, but that's about it.
Oh gosh. Speaking of taxes, don't you love tax season?
Oh, it's my favorite time of year. You think you're gonna do pretty well, and then you're like, huh, I owe this year.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Usually how it goes.
Well, I'm curious. I don't know how everything works as first-time home buyer and all that other stuff. So I have so much fun to deal with the next couple weeks. Finally.
Yeah, you'll get that interest back. But I anticipated, I guess, a little more, and I was like, huh, I guess I owed a little bit more, so it kind of canceled out. But yeah, you do get a little bit more with the first-time home buyer. Is that what you went FHA for that loan?
Yeah, we had to.
Yeah.
It was the easiest way to do it.
Was it a competitive market like when you were buying?
So we initially thought we were going to build, and the interest rates just kept going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really don't want to build a house and then have a 7+% or 8+% loan, because it didn't lock until it came to the end. Now we could have got a free float down, but you only get a free float down if it actually goes down.
Yeah.
So we just started looking, and we found a 5-year-old house that was built by the same builder that we were going to use. We had actually driven through the neighborhood years ago when we were still kind of just learning about the market. So nice spot. It's far enough away that, I hear crickets in the train at night. Not so much traffic, but it's not so far away that I can't get everywhere I got to be for work because of my territory. So it's nice. It's nice to finally be done with apartments after 12 years of that.
No, I bet.
What about you? What you been up to the last couple weeks? Really, or I guess really since AHR.
Shoot, since AHR, not too much. Just came back and kind of, pedal to the floor and just been putting out some work. And then, last couple weeks have been definitely a little slow. I guess getting some content the last couple weeks has been a little difficult, but it's just that time of year, really.
Now, how does that? I guess you guys are just a little bit cooler than we are year round, I would say. Do you kind of see, your peak for winter is, December, January, and then you kind of pit down a bit February and March and April before you kind of kick back up going into May? Do you guys kind of see that same bell curve in Maryland, or?
Yeah, it just depends on the year. Like, sometimes we get those real cold Marches still. Like, Maryland's a real, just weird state. The weather can be 60 degrees one day and then 35 the next. Like, it fluctuates a lot right at that, early, springtime or that late fall, too. Like, weather's just very temperamental, it seems like. It just flip-flops. But, I don't know. It's kind of pretty neutral. The humidity is the worst part where I'm at.
Folks, you guys are stuck right between bodies of water, really, depending where you're at. Let me look.
Yeah, so I work in Grace Mill, Kent Island area, which is I don't know if you're familiar with Ocean City, kind of.
I'm about to be.
Yeah, it's around the East Coast, but yeah, it's a little island kind of town for sure. Definitely big beach vibes and stuff. But it's a nice little area for sure. I grew up in Silver Spring, which is near DC.
Gotcha.
And then about 10 or 11, my parents moved us over to the shore, which is a little definitely a different way of life for sure.
No, it's a nice little spot. You're right smack dab in the middle of the old island there.
Oh yeah. So.
Now, how far do you guys cover? Do you go all the way down, all the way down into Virginia at all, or is it just Maryland, DC, Baltimore area?
Yeah, so we'll cross that big bridge there over the bay and work in Annapolis.
Gotcha.
And then we'll cover pretty much a majority of the upper eastern shore. We won't really go down anywhere towards the beach. That starts to get a 2-hour drive for us, so it kind of starts to add up. But we still have a few customers that my boss is friends with and stuff that have jobs down there or houses down there, and we'll just go down there for a day and kind of make it a little trip, but not on the regular.
Now, are you focused, I guess, primarily residential or any commercial, or what kind of is your main zone of business you're chasing?
Probably 90% residential, 10% light commercial. Not a lot of new construction or anything on the commercial side, not as much.
Yep.
A lot of maintenances and just service contracts with that. But residential is really where we do well in, and that's kind of our market for sure around here. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of commercial spots here. it's very like more like business parks and stuff, not a lot of like big buildings or anything like that.
Is it almost kind of more rural?
Very rural. A lot of hunting, fishing. It's a big waterman town. So like
Makes sense.
back in the day, like all those people grew up, crabbing, oystering. That was like the way of life for the longest time. And farming, that's a big thing out here. But it's still a big market, but it's not as much money for everybody getting into it. So it's, not as many people are going into it anymore. That's for sure.
Well, I was gonna say, also with it being rural, is that kind of what fueled you guys to be doing plumbing as well? Have you always done plumbing, or is that something you've kind of started picking up, as you've learned more with your company?
So we just do not really any drainage or anything like that, but we'll do like your water heaters and stuff.
Yeah.
Just to kind of help fill that slower time too here and there. And it just kind of changes things up a little bit, changes the pace. I didn't really do a lot of like water heaters or anything hydronic before my first company, but here John's let me kind of lead a lot of those jobs, and that's been a huge learning part for me.
Well, I was gonna say that's how you learn it. You got to get stuck into it.
Yeah, that's how I've learned the entire trade is just kind of being thrown into some things, and definitely messed a few things up, that's for sure. Burnt some stuff up, and like everyone has, but
haven't we all?
Yeah. And then
that's kind of how it happens. You got to screw it up sometimes to know how to not screw it up.
Yeah, as long as you know, like, that was, you screwed up there, you don't do it again, then I think you learn from it. But
now in North Carolina, if you're going to do plumbing and heating, or if you're going to do a water heater, you could change everything in most cases, but in order to hook water to it, you have to have a specific different license on the plumbing side. So do you guys have two separate licenses for heating or plumbing, or do you have a full mechanical license? You can cover both, or how does that work in your state?
In our state, in our area too, like, you don't have to have a actual license to do a water heater swap. There's some counties in here that you don't even have to pull an HVAC or mechanical license to do a new duct job.
No permit or nothing.
Some counties around here are like that. But
I could see it more not always being necessary on a duct job, which I guess some people would probably rake me over the coals for saying that, because we all know how important airflow is. But that's not as detailed as cracking a torch and breaking something open.
No, but the thing is too, like, some of the rules here are a little some of the counties are pretty lenient. Like, the biggest thing they're looking for is just refrigeration locking caps. So, like, if that's on, you're almost 99% of the time good. But it's of some towns and counties around here too, they want your duct design and stuff like that, so that they can actually verify that you're doing the work you say you're doing.
So you've got to do manual J's, manual D's, anything like that.
For certain towns, and then that obviously kind of affects the pricing a little bit, because you got to put a little bit more time into pulling all that, but
makes sense. So let's get into the story of you, my friend, because this is honestly, I've been excited about this since I met you, because really that's been one of the funnest things about as I've met people on social media. I never realized you really never realize you would meet as many good people as you do with the horror stories you hear about different things. And yeah, you meet some people that aren't the best of people, but overall our community, I feel, has been just so accepting to so many people, and it's really an awesome thing to be a part of. But I've watched you and a bunch of your friends that are all younger kind of growing into this. I'm like, man, I wish when I was 18, 19, 20 and I was doing stuff in the field, I would have taken pictures and video and done all this stuff. Now, granted, I had a flip phone, so
yeah, different time then.
Total
for sure.
different,
Yeah.
different, set of tools.
Yeah.
But I go back and I look at old job site photos, even from like the early 2000s, and I'm like, God, this picture quality is terrible. And like now, look what we have on our phones. We used to spend, $1,200 on a camera to try to take pictures that we nonchalantly have every day at our fingertips. It's crazy. But
my boss the other day, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but my boss the other day, he was, like the big thing was taking the picture sideways. And now everything, you got to flip the phone the other way. I'm like, you got to flip it the other way.
Yep.
He's like, it just shows you how old I am. I'm like, I guess, but yeah. It's just things have changed, I guess, for sure.
So, share with everybody kind of how did you get started in HVAC, and what inspired you to pursue this career, at your age, to really just step in and say, this is what I'm going to go do?
So coming out of high school, I really had no idea really what I wanted to do specifically. I just thought college route was, a thing for me. So I was going to go to my community college here, Chesapeake, and, do my 2 years, get my associates, and then kind of figure out then and transfer out. And I went to school there for 2 years while working 2 side jobs as a golf cart attendant, and then at this warehouse just kind of stocking and shipping out some stuff. And that last semester going into college, I had 3 classes left, and it was actually the summer before, and I was just like, I'm gonna try and take on a different job and just kind of see how things were. And it was an HVAC job that my buddy was working at, and I just took it on for the summer. Wasn't making great money, but I just was a lot happier, just not being in school, I feel like, and I just felt like I was actually kind of doing something more productive a little bit.
Yep, I understand that.
So I walked away and I never went back to school. I still have three classes left, but I don't know, after that I just kind of just doubled down on this, and this was kind of it. And I worked at my one company for maybe a year, left there. The next company was really the one that kind of put this quality of work and work ethic kind of behind me a lot.
Yep.
And they just ingrained a lot of my first 2 days or whatever. I remember we were pressing RLS stuff, and I had no idea what we were doing at all, coming from another company that just was old school. They didn't do anything like that, and it was just different. So when I came here, they definitely took a lot of pride and a lot of time and attention to detail in the work. And so I worked with them for about 3 years, and it just got to a point where it was one of the great places to work, but I just couldn't mentally stay there, if you know what I mean.
I understand that.
It just kind of got a little difficult, so I just explored my options before making any decisions and stuff, and sat on it for months and months, and was just I'm just gonna make this risky call. Obviously I'm gonna you don't know if the grass is greener on the other side ever, so you just have to kind of,
no, you don't.
You just kind of have to make that jump sometimes, and either fall on your face or it works out. And thankfully it worked out. John, he treats me like a son at this company. He took me under his wing right away. Gave me a lot of responsibility, right out of the gate, a lot of trust. And I just, if you're gonna give me that, opportunity and stuff, I'm not gonna try and let you down there at all. So
no, I completely understand that.
So I worked with him for about a year, and I started running his social media, and that's when I started seeing Jeff, Flynn. The very first account that got me into it was actually HVAC Life 101. Remember Shav?
Yep.
So Shav's account, I remember, was the first one, and then I found Howard, and it just kind of stemmed from there. And I was running the hometown one for a while, and it was one day I was I'm doing all this for the account, my company's account, but I could be doing it for myself too. So I just one day created Instagram and just started posting, and I don't know, 3 months in or something, it was right around February, and I wasn't even going to go to the AHR in Atlanta, but Shav shot me a DM and was are you going to go? And I was I haven't really decided. He was you should, and just fly out with me, Justin, who's True Blue, Alex,
Yep.
and I was like, what? Like this is kind of surreal, and like
I know.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna go, and like my parents, my girlfriend at the time was like, are you like serious? Like this is this is kind of crazy. You don't know these people, you know what I mean? I was just like, it can't be like, it can't be that bad. So I went.
Yeah.
It was the best week of my life. Definitely changed things drastically. I met Jeffy Pipes.
Yep.
Brian, HVAC addict.
Yep.
Along with a bunch of other people down there, KB, everybody.
And I don't want to. And I was gonna say I don't want to cut you off here, but I want you to save a little bit of that because we're gonna dig into your social media stuff here shortly.
Okay, I'll say it. Gotcha.
So don't burn your whole story yet. Let's work through some of it. So
all right, gotcha.
You go to work with your buddy. Now, before that, had you ever had any exposure to trades of any kind, or have you even thought about that as a career or anything? This was just kind of, hey man, you want to come help me for a bit, and you jumped in to see what happened?
I don't know really. I wanted to do something a little more hands-on. And like I had a friend that I grew up with that was, working for a local company, and I just like asked if they were hiring this summer, and he said yeah. So that's just kind of how I got in. I never really was like mechanically inclined growing up, so a lot of that just like was a big interest to me, I guess, when I first got into it. So like it definitely was like I was learning, real life skills, I felt like, every day while learning the trade also.
Now, that kind of answered part of my next question about, what initially attracted you to it. But being able to kind of have that freedom and have that, you go home at the end of the day and you did something with your hands, you feel accomplished, and you can, like, yeah, I had a great day. I learned this, I got this done, tomorrow we're going to do this. That I completely get. That's the one thing, honestly, that's what I miss the most about being on my side of the fence now and not in the field every day is some of my stuff just feels like busy work. And you get home and you could have been on the phone all day long or in front of a computer all day long. And some days you're like, man, I miss the days when I did something, was done with it, and felt accomplished, as opposed to I'm ending the day and everything is still, what's going to happen with this one tomorrow? So I miss that go home sense of accomplishment some days, which is why I enjoy every now and then days when I go jump in a truck and take something just to do it, to see a customer, or because we need some help because somebody's on vacation or whatever. That stuff is always so satisfying, is you feel like you truly just went and did something for the day.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, absolutely. And the biggest thing too, like if you can walk away and, when the homeowners are really appreciative, that's a big thing too, especially when you do like, exceptional work, like, when, the work's, average, or, when you kind of went above and beyond, and, what I mean? But that's just...
Yeah, you do. And anyone that says they don't, they're full of it.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to take, a little more pride each day with, a new install or a different install. And so...
Now, as you were going through all these things, did you attend classes at distributors, or what else did you do to kind of keep building that knowledge, or what else did your company support you to do to build your knowledge as you're walking through this, new career path?
So that first 3 years, I went to a lot of Mitsubishi trainings. So that's kind of where a lot of my, I guess, classroom instruction was a lot of Mitsubishi stuff.
Makes sense.
I did a lot of, your basic, like your refrigeration circuit, low voltage circuits. But those were all, like, I guess, offered through different like branches and stuff, distributors.
Yep.
So no sort of like trade schools or anything like that. I did take a college, like or at a college, like an electrical, like 101 class.
Yep.
But that was pretty much it.
What would you say were some of kind of your first biggest lessons you learned when you were in the field?
I remember the biggest thing is just I know this has been kind of going around a lot recently too. But just not trying to like guess or anticipate, the service call or whatever came in. Just kind of go in there with like a fresh mind and
Yep.
just start simple and do the same thing every single time. You start changing that, just like anything we do, like whether you're installing, when you start doing it differently every single time, you can't get that repetition down. You don't, you start getting different outcomes at the end of it.
Well, and that's part of, it's been discussed on the show time and time again. When you go on a service call or even when you go on a PM, walk yourself through, the process. Start at the top, go through sequence of operations, do all these different things, because there's a million guys are like, well, 20 years ago when it did this is what it meant. So I guarantee that's what it is. And you hear that all the time. And we get lucky a lot. I've said that on the show many, many times too, not just myself. But it's true. So being able to, especially when you're starting, find the habit of just go from A to Z is huge, because a lot of bad habits get taught out of the gate for people that are trying to just push up the ladder and think they figured it out as fast as they can. And that's really, unfortunately, does a big disservice to a lot of people's, service training all the way from the beginning. If you could just get guys to try to avoid bad habits from the start, it would make things so much easier.
I think another thing too is just checking yourself sometimes. Like it's easy to get a little cocky after a while, or just got to watch your ego. Just stay humble. You're not. Yep. No one's perfect in this trade at all. So that's kind of the biggest thing too. Is just kind of staying humble throughout each day.
No, I completely agree with that, and I think that's something that we've continued really to see more of more guys supporting each other, to just kind of be humble and take it one step at a time in the group of friends we all run with. So I'm right there with you when it comes to those things. So living in Maryland, I know in North Carolina, I'm sure there's different challenges. Are there any kind of unique challenges you guys run into, whether it be, something on y'all's coast, some kind of industry you guys see that isn't seen down south or up north? What are kind of some unique things you've ran into?
So I was always explained how Maryland kind of got decided with whether they're going to kind of go heat pump market or a dual fuel or furnace market. Yep. I guess Maryland fell below that Mason-Dixon line, so they're like, all right, well, it's mostly going to be a heat pump market, but we kind of get a good mix between the both. But in my area, we see a lot more outdoor units that are on the water or on the bay that tend to corrode a little bit sooner for sure. And then another thing with the humidity, like we have a lot of like kind of mildew issues, like humidity issues. It's just you kind of have to combat that a little bit. Really, a lot of the biggest thing is encapsulation's big around here, and conditioning your crawl spaces, because no matter how much you try and protect it, like it's still gonna just grow. It's a dark, cool space sometimes, and stuff's gonna grow on it.
So those coastal corrosion problems, I have a very good friend that I will plug right now, but I need to get you in touch with him and get you some product to try out. So it's Brian. He was at the house, stayed with Chris and I last week when he was up here making some sales calls for me, but also for the rep agency and some other distributors up here. But he's also who I interviewed that you met briefly at AHR on Monday. So that's Brian with AC Products USA, and he was the creator of the AC Protect spray. And this stuff, you can coat control boards, you can coat coils, you can coat entire outdoor units with one spray.
And doesn't leave like a coating or anything, like a brown, like a colored one?
No, it's completely clear. You can tell it's on the board because it gets a little glossy, but you can tell when it's wet or dry. And I'm telling you, man, the stuff's nuts. There's been some videos that we posted on on the Instagram for the show, you can see where we coated it twice and then we're just spraying water on it. Nothing. And, you know, we've got a powered Bosch board. I mean, those are $1,200 boards and we're just sitting there spraying it with water.
Really?
It's nuts, man. So I'll work on that for you and I. That's a side project.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So speaking of that, and speaking of protecting boards, I know you've talked about Mitsubishi. You do some killer Mitsubishi installs, but you also do some pretty swanky Bosch installs, which I got to say, they look great. I know my friends over at Bosch love what you've done there. And
Thank you.
You know, what would you say kind of, they're going into a product like that, it's a little different, especially there's not any other real brands that are doing a whole lot of inverter from the jump stuff. There are several, but not everybody's doing that. Now, is that something that you saw before you went to this new company, or is it something that kind of happened with you guys, or how did you guys decide that was, you know, an appropriate piece of equipment for the market you're in? And is that mainly because you have such a weather swing that having an inverter like that really matches up well to what you do?
So the first time I saw a Bosch system was probably my last month at my previous company. And it was the first time I was putting them in. And I remember on startup, I had just like an issue because I was like, man, my compressor's not kicking on. You know how it has the delay in the before the compressor actually, like the valve and everything shifts over. So that threw me off.
Because it actually cranks in AC before it shifts.
Yeah, to build up that
pressure.
Yep. So that was like throwing me off, and then I remember I heard the ticking in the compressor, and I'm like, oh my! Like, you know, when you hear a ticking in an old school compressor, you're like, disconnect right away. So like, no. After that, I got everything running. It was just definitely a learning curve there. And then when I came to my new company, that's like that was like their high-end system that they did. So we did Coleman primarily. Evcon was like our cheap like budget system, and then Bosch was like our high-end. We only did like the 20 series.
Yep.
And then after a while, we just kind of got away from the Coleman products and the York products, and
high price camping equipment.
Yep. And it was the same price as the Bosch, and we were just at the point like we're just gonna go all Bosch. So all we offer is a Bosch 15 SEER, Bosch 18 and the 20 as our different options now. We would still do like a budget, like a Goodman, if you want something like real simple, but that's pretty much all we do now. And I mean, warranty wise, count on like one hand with what we've had. It's been pretty easy to kind of get the parts for everything, so we haven't had any issues really.
No, it's been a solid piece of gear, and I grew up, I cut my teeth on Rhydon. That's what my dad put in. That's what I learned on. That's what I sold for years.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Ironically, today is my 1-year anniversary of moving to a company selling Bosch. But when I was looking at places to go, I was like, well, what they're doing is different than most everybody else. So that's something I'd like to try to sell. And it's just, dude, it's for what you get out of it. For the price point from 15 to 18 to 20, you can't beat it. You really can't. There's people that'll argue like, well, they don't have an 80% furnace. I was like, in 3 years, none of you will either. But
exactly.
It's one of those things that, well, where you are you in the cutoff where everything has to be 90 plus now, or can you still put in like new install 80s?
We can still put in the new install 80s. I don't know if it just changed within the last like few months or so. But I mean, I just did one in the last year.
So 2028, currently on the books, we are regulated to go 95% minimum nationwide.
Really?
Yep. Which, Bosch was already, I think, saw that coming because they eliminated their 80% furnace. They did have one at one point, I found out.
Huh.
But they got rid of it because they saw the way it was going. So for you guys with that, do you do a lot of coil only stuff with like 18s or 20s? Maybe hooking up to, a boiler system or something else or anything else like that?
Yeah, so we'll sometimes do like a little Frankenstein unit, I like to call it. The
Yep.
other day I did a Goodman furnace with a Bosch coil and Bosch outdoor 20 seer. So like it just we kind of change things up here and there. I mean, ideally we'd like to go all Bosch, but sometimes the customer wants a specific setup for a certain reason. So
Yep.
just got to accommodate to that. But like you were saying earlier, I didn't really answer that question about the inverter for where we're at. It's pretty much the best thing for it, just because we do see these cold winters sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
a standard 14 seer heat pump like at 30-35 degrees, you start really bringing on that electric heat a lot. So
Now, do you do any of the 5-ton outdoor, 3-ton indoor matchups so that you've got higher heat for the winter or anything like that?
rarely. But like we're definitely aware of that. I actually ran into one the other day like that, and it almost threw me off at a second. I was like, uh-oh, 5-ton on a 3-ton. I'm like, it's a Bosch. We're okay.
Yep, pretty much. Well, because it lets it just build that extra heat, which helps you avoid those heat strips for as long as you possibly can. Now, did you see the new Ultra at AHR? Did you look at that thing?
Yeah, the with the kind of the big top on it, the cold climate, right?
Yeah. Well, so I found out because I'm too short. You and I are both too short to see the top of that thing. Vertically challenged.
For sure.
So what they did was the reason it's taller is they moved the Venturi and the fan completely above the coil. And when they did that, they actually get full 100% utilization of the coil pack, where anything else that has it sitting down in a coil, some cases won't get full use of the coil because it's kind of hidden by the Venturi.
Yeah, that top section. I know exactly.
Yep. So that's why it got taller, but the footprint still stayed the same.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my favorite things is between the 3 and the 5-ton, like you have the same footprint.
Yep.
It makes it easy to order like pads and stuff like that. And then even setting stuff, you get a 5-ton, just regular 16 seer system, and that thing's not double
monster.
case coil. It's a monster. Yeah. The double, the double. I don't know the proper term. The doubled up coil there though, for sure, keeps everything a lot compactor.
And in the past, I used to hate double row coil stuff because they never lined the fins up. Yep. So when you clean it, you doesn't matter if you clean it from the outside or the inside, you just pack all that junk in between the coils and you get nothing done. Bosch actually lines the coil up so you can clean through it, which that makes all the difference in the world too for service.
Absolutely.
And also, I think part of the reason it stayed in that small footprint is because you can technically take a 5-ton unit through a 3.0 door, but a lot of cases they did that because there's so many townhomes or brownstones in places like DC and New York that have equipment on the roof, but you don't want to have to hire a $10,000 crane and shut down the street every time you change a 3-ton unit.
Exactly.
So, all right, so we got a sense of that. Now I'm going to go to social media with you.
All right.
So let's talk. I guess we'll start kind of, social media has become a huge platform for sharing knowledge, connecting in the industry, all those things. So how did, like you said, you started learning to use it for yourself. So how did you kind of use it to educate yourself as well as grow your presence? And we'll get to kind of how you got into Visionaries after we get through kind of how you got started.
So that first year, I think I just try to stay under the radar a little bit. I was just being a sponge, and that's kind of just watching everyone's posts and videos, and just kind of like taking ideas there, and kind of piggybacking off of them a little bit. But it just kind of just slowly grew from there, and just everybody's posts kind of motivate each other to do better. I mean, there's a few guys out there that I definitely look for each time they're posting, because they're just doing something crazy and different every single time. But I mean, it's a lot of great people out here. It's a super supportive community.
Well, and you talked about Shav and some of those other people that kind of got you to go to AHR the first time. So, who were some of your, people besides him and Jeff and some of those guys that really just made you decide that, this is really cool. I want to continue to do this myself because, they push you to do more.
Man, I'm gonna leave so many people out of here, I feel like.
Well, that's what the shout out section for later. You just pull up your phone and just read everybody. That way no one can get offended.
Exactly. So when that first this group of guys I stayed with, it was Flynn, KB, Luis, HVAC 562, Brian, Jeff, Zeke from Solder Weld, Shy was there.
Yeah,
but that was kind of like
crew.
that was the crew. But I really stuck with like me and Jeffy really clicked there, and that's kind of where when I came back too, we started just doing a couple jobs here and there together.
Now, how far away from you is he?
About 2.5 hours.
Does he work? Because he's Jeff's nephew, correct? Am I wrong?
No, yeah. So no, he's not related to them at all.
For some reason, I thought he was somebody's nephew. Somebody told me that at some point.
Yeah. So he his father started this business, or actually I think his grandfather did years ago, and then his father is running it now. It's ACHS out of like White Plains, New York, and pretty much Jeffy is now kind of like filling that role as almost owner of that company. He's kind of running all the estimates, service calls, and still doing all the installs. He just kind of hopped off the Instagram, as everyone kind of knows.
Yeah, he's busy. He's got things to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes life requires you to go do those things. Trust me. There's plenty of time where I'm like, you know what? Job's got to come first today. Love the podcast, love the show, but what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis for Insight has got to take precedent because that's what puts the food on the table for my family.
Exactly.
So I get it. And I think that's another thing too to even talk about is I think there's a lot of people that feel pressure like, oh God, if I don't post every day, these people won't like me anymore and they won't help me and things like that. Man, you see it with, we've had conversations with guys like Ben Thompson, HVAC Strong, mental health. That's something, one of the very first affiliate that I signed up for the show, like 3 months in, was BetterHelp.
Yep.
Because that mental grind and that mental thing for the trades in any business like this, it's just one of those other things that can be just as tough, and all this stuff just kind of compounds. And sometimes, we're human beings. You got to be able to say, like, social media is great, but I got to go take care of me today, or I got to take care of this today. So I think we don't see as much pressure as we used to for people to feel like they've got to put stuff out every day. And it's impressive to be able to see someone like him realize, like, hey, I got to go do this for a bit, but maybe I'll be back. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I think there's at times like I got caught up, just feeling like, posting every day, and really after a while, it really just burns you out. I mean,
it does.
Especially if you're working the 40, 50 hours a week and then you want to come home, and as much as people say, like, it doesn't take any time to edit, or, I mean, that stuff is time consuming.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And sometimes the hardest part for me is like picking out my music. Like certain,
Dude,
like you're sitting there and you're like overthinking it way too much, and you're like, all right, I'm just, just post it and forget about it. And that's how I've kind of gotten recently, is just more so like, I know what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna keep,
I think the best thing that we can do in terms of building this community on social media is just be ourselves. Just be yourself. Be who you are. People appreciate you for who you are. You don't have to impress anybody. Just be you. Come hang out. Join the crew. So tell me how Visionaries started.
So how that started, so Efren,
I was gonna say,
Adam.
actually, I was gonna say real quick. If you don't know who the HVAC Visionaries are, it's Garrett, Efren, Adam, Logan. Now was Jeffy Pipes before, and then who am I missing?
Anwar was
And
part of
Anwar
it.
was one as well.
Yeah.
So, and now primarily it's you, Logan, Adam, and Efren.
Yes. So really, Efren was the main one behind this. So he reached out, and I wasn't initially a part of it. So he reached out to Adam, Anwar, and Jeffy, and I got a call from Jeffy one time, and he just was like, he wanted me to be a part of something that like I had no idea what was going on. I was like, sure, and so kind of that's how that all evolved. I kind of joined in with them, so it was the 5 of us, and the big thing for us was trying to like, obviously show that the trades aren't all that terrible work all the time, and there's a lot of like great things that come out of it. And we wanted to get into like trade schools and high schools to kind of speak about it, and kind of put that into, I mean, if we could get 1 kid out of 100, that's a win. But just try to get that in some of these kids' heads that don't have to go to school to make a decent living or feel like fulfilled about something at the end of the day.
Well, and I think it's not even that you don't have to go to school, because there's plenty of tech programs that can give you a great foundation. But one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to be a part of workforce development with AHR was because the other thing about these tech schools is they teach kids in a lot of ways that there's really only, I think, one path into the industry. It's, you're either going into service or you're going into install, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to speak with those kids in October, and then again in earlier this year at AHR, the biggest thing that we wanted to get across to them was, well, trade school is great. You can go there and you can work in the field for a couple of years, and you know what? Sometimes it's not for you. However, the knowledge you've learned of this trade can allow you to transition to many, many other careers that are involved with the trades, but maybe you just do things differently. Because distribution, wholesale, we need counter people, we need drivers, we need warehouse guys, we need salespeople, we need all of that. Manufacturers, they need people. Manufacturers reps, they need people. So there's so many other different avenues that you can get into with this. And at one point, we were going around the room and we were asking people what they wanted to do. And I've probably said this story before, so people that have heard it before, sorry. But here it is again, because it's still the truth. This one young girl said she wanted to get into marketing. And I said, well, great. I said, someone's got to design sales slicks and graphics and websites and all this stuff for contractors, for manufacturers, for distribution, all these things. I said, the knowledge you can have in this trade can get you into any other door you want, but also give you, if it all falls apart, you know what? I know how to run ductwork. I can go get a job.
Yeah, I mean, teach yourself like a set of skills that, nobody can take away from you.
That's it. No one can take away what you learned in the trades. That's the one of the biggest beauties of it, is no one can take away your knowledge and what you can do with your hands.
Yeah, like one thing I remember hearing was just like, create enough value for yourself that like you couldn't just next day be replaced,
That's it. And we're seeing that constantly. Hell, even on the distribution side, it constantly feels like there's a push, not so maybe in my company, but I've seen it, in places I've been before. I see it constantly where other guys I know are working, and there's a constant push almost to get rid of the sales guy. Like, we don't need him. We got an online portal and we got this and this. We don't need the sales guy. What's he do? Yeah. And yeah, sorry, sales guys. Some of you are worthless. Sorry. But no, but it's the truth. It's like, oh, well, a monkey can do that. No, they can't.
No, I've dealt with, we've got one sales guy that is just goes above and beyond for us. And, that speaks like,
speaks
hugely
volumes
to us. Volumes. For us to go and order through the portal or something like that, it's just sometimes it's quicker and easier if he can just help us out or find something at a different branch and just kind of,
Yep.
give us an answer right away. Because obviously, more time you're sitting there spending on the phone or whatever, less money being made.
Well, and that's how I tried to look at it when I got into sales. We had my dad and I had a couple of really good sales guys, and I've had a bunch of really shitty ones. And I wanted to be the sales guy that I wish I could have had. And I tried my very best to be that guy to all of my customers. I've had customers I've done business with for 10, 11 years now, because of, if he calls me, I'm going to pick it up or I'm going to call him back. And sometimes, I don't always get called back to everybody. It happens. But, the biggest thing about this industry is the fortune is in the follow-up. I hate follow-up. I hate that term. Or I'm reaching out. I hate that term too, even though I use it. The fortune is in the follow-up and how you treat your customers. If you can help them solve a problem, and you know what? There's days where I may be able to help them solve the problem, but guess what? I got to send them to the guy that can solve it for them because I know him, because I couldn't do it. But if you're the guy that is a solutions provider as a salesperson to your customer, that's what you got to be.
Yeah. What's your next question? My bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, what would you say has been kind of your favorite part working with a group of fellow young tradespeople, collectively? Do you guys plan content? You do from time to time plan content together, but is it do you guys have any specific things you try to do to be, like, this is something I want to create for a Visionaries post rather than myself, or how do you guys go about stuff like that?
So at first we were trying to do that, where we were trying to post like on the Visionaries account separately, and then on our account separately. But we were gonna post like tech tips and more for like informative stuff on the Visionaries account. But to get us a little bit more traction in the beginning, we were just collaborating with our post to kind of bring some more following to the Visionaries and just make people a little bit more aware of it. But this year we're going to try and I think really get into these schools and just try to level things up a little bit, take a little more serious with the Visionaries account now that we've got a decent following behind it and some good support.
Now let's talk future. I know that's one thing that you wanted to talk about a little bit, when, especially like you say, going into the schools and things like that. So for younger guys that are listening even right now, but also let's say you're going into the school, what's advice that you would give a young individual who's considering a career in HVAC or plumbing or the trades in general?
Obviously do your research a little bit. You don't want to go in there thinking it's going to be a very light duty job. It's not always terrible. Some days are a lot, lighter duty than others, but you just got to try it. Give it a try. And the biggest thing is, like, you're not gonna probably love it that first year. You may like it, but you're not gonna really understand anything as much as you think you are. And it's gonna take, it took me 3 years before I actually start like understanding what was going on with certain things. And you got 100 different applications for everything, so it changes job to job.
Yeah, it does. Well, and you kind of answered some of that question, so, outside tech skills, obviously I guess it would be perseverance, for one, is to stick with it, and, determination, just those different things, but also being willing to think on your feet and learn in the field as you go. Because the one nice thing about the trades is you really never get a repeat day. There's constantly that opportunity to learn something new every day, no matter what.
No, you're never going to get that identical job.
Nope.
You're going to get it pretty similar sometimes, but you're never going to get that one of one.
And in your neck of the woods, you've kind of already answered this a little bit, but where's really the best place to start if you're, getting fresh out of high school? Is it best to go and look for a local trade school, or do you think it almost makes sense to do that plus, get, an additional job with a local company so you can start kind of understanding what your market even is about?
If I would have done started all over again, I probably would have found a company that would have, worked. I would have worked full time during the week, and then at nights you would have 2 or 3 days a week of classroom instruction as you go, just so you're getting the the theory and the hands-on. But learning in the field's good too, but there's some things that you definitely just learn by messing it up, or learn by running into something and having to kind of figure out a solution there, which sometimes is the best way.
No, that's the truth. There's no there's no replacement for experience. And there's no replacement for on-the-job training. Sometimes you just got to be there to really learn it, and you can learn it in tech school all you want. It's totally different when you're sitting in front of that condenser and it's 40 degrees outside and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. So and another thing too, a lot of maybe the 4 or 5 friends that I really grew up with through high school, and when I was younger, they're all union boys, so they're union sheet metal guys, union steam fitters, and you know how that union versus resi thing goes sometimes.
Yep.
And it's they definitely have their thoughts about the resi work in general, but it's definitely, I think some of the stuff that I've been showing them, and the quality of work is what kind of they're like, all right, it's maybe not that bad, because I think a lot of people just get a bad rap for it, obviously.
No, they do, and there's a lot of crappy installs done on the residential side.
Absolutely.
There just are. Most of those people aren't listening to this show. But it's the truth. So, and I completely get that. Where I work now has been primarily a commercial industrial manufacturer's rep for 20 plus years, in terms of history length. And the residential and new construction, multifamily, some of this other stuff that I'm doing are things that the company's never done before. And there's some days, these guys that are selling 50-ton units looking over at me like, why are you messing with that little stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's it's what I know. They see 5-ton and down, they're like, not for me. And I'm like, I see a gold mine, give me that, let me have that. And
you'll
it's
probably
just
do 10 more of those versus the 50-ton, you know what I mean? So
but now, and I won't say nothing. There's some guys that, dude, we've got some guys that can know their stuff, and it's impressive. That's one of my favorite things about it is, working where I do now, kind of like you've talked about, being able to build and grow, your repertoire of things. I never got into anything over really 25, 30 tons unless it was just like a maintenance.
Yeah.
Where we were in the mountains. So now I have so much more that I'm just learning on a weekly, monthly basis to just be able to do more things, so that eventually I can maybe go sell circles around them doing both things. Who knows? So looking down towards the rest of 2024, it's already April, which is crazy. But what are some things about our industry that truly continue to inspire and motivate you as a technician and a creator?
I mean, tools are obviously one thing that is always changing, and I think within the last few years, it's kind of with a lot of the NAVAC stuff that's came out, the wireless vacuum pumps, fenders, all that. I mean, that's been a huge game changer, I think, for a lot of things. I haven't got my hands on any NAVAC stuff yet, but still using the press for all my Mitsubishi stuff and everything right now. But that may be something that I'll be adding to the collection here soon, for sure.
I know we had a meeting with the NAVAC people, I would say early fall this past year. I know it's something that we're looking at. I think our biggest one right now is And and you and I, know the best in the business, but it's deciding how we're getting into the press game, because it's coming. I toured a manufacturing facility with one of our other brands last week, and one of the questions was, are you guys going to build our 454B units press ready, or are you building them sweat ready?
Mm-hmm.
And buddy, I got a feeling, and from what we're hearing, there's going to be more people that come out with press ready, like longer stub outs moving forward. We're going to see it start happening. It's coming.
Yeah, I think so. That's the thing. I just don't think a lot of manufacturers have really been promoting that. Obviously, like, you haven't seen any like manufacturer installs with a lot of that stuff on any of their. It just hasn't, I guess, gotten.
It hasn't become mainstream yet, but it's. I think because of the new refrigerant changes, I think we're gonna see it start to turn the corner a bit more. I think the biggest thing is just, I hate to say it, there's so many different brands now, and no one has jaws that work with one another. That makes it really difficult sometimes for the contractor and for the distributors, to be honest. And that's no knock on the press game. That is the one challenge of all of it that I really see that sticks out for both contractor and distribution.
Yeah, there's even like one supply house still here around me, and it's been 4 or 5 years since the whole RLS Zoom lock split. Their RLS fittings are still labeled, and their SKU is all Zoom lock still. So I wonder how many people go in there thinking they got a Zoom lock, and then they're like, hold up. But if you know the fitting, you know the fitting. But it's still obviously they have no idea what the difference is with that. It's all the same and not. But
so can you share maybe a recent success achievement within where you are that's kind of boosted up your pride and optimism for what you've got coming the rest of this year?
No, I can't really say like a specific event or anything. Definitely huge motivation was getting my journeyman's a couple years ago, and that kind of put another fire under my butt just to kind of keep doing it. And but other than that, nothing that I can really put my finger on.
So I guess we'll do one more big one, and then we'll do some shout outs. So what if you had to say just the very last few pieces of advice, words of encouragement for your fellow HVAC people out there as we go through the rest of this year, with whether you're worried about economy, worried about changes in equipment, all these other things, but if you could say one thing to everybody, what would you say?
I just be prepared for everyone's gonna be on this financing route for equipment. So I think that if you're not doing that, if you're not doing that now, you just better start, because I think that's where everything's gonna go. I think Miss Jones is gonna be happily paying that $89.99 a month for 15 years until our next system breaks, versus kicking out 10 or 15 grand. Just do it right then.
Oh, it's the truth, and I know we're gonna see another increase with all these changes. It's coming. I was meeting with a customer today, and we were just looking at the changes in price in the last 4 years, and it's like, wow.
So
really?
From your perspective, do you feel like the price increase within the last 4 years has been, this is what I've just heard, the last 4 years has been more drastic than from 2000 to 2015 or so?
Oh, hands down. We've seen, typically, I started in distribution in 2011. Was when I started, and I worked at a Ferguson in Greenville, South Carolina. And, we had, I was there for 2 years, and then I was at another distributor in the Charlotte market for a decade. And up until 2020, we had one increase a year. It was between 4 and 8%, and you rolled on. That was just what it was. And then, we had 3 increases in 2020 and 2 increases in 2021 and another one in 2 in 22 and another one in 23. You got another one. I mean, we've had as many price increases in the last 4 years as I saw in the 9 before it. It's insane. And and then the headache is, some of it you're watching inflation and it's pushing up, but then you'll see stuff like, cost of shipping containers went to $20,000. Well, it had been $2,000 before that. Well, now it's back, in some cases, in the threes, but we don't see that. No one sees that come down for shipping. No one sees this come down for anywhere else. So there's part of it that I feel like I hate to see how much it's been, because I know what it's, I've seen how much it changed the price of, jobs in my dad's business. I've seen how much it's changed the price of, customers all through the market. But the problem is, if one manufacturer goes up, they're all going up because they can. Yep. And this is not me knocking the manufacturers. I mean, we all got to make our money one way or another. But I think it's crazy, but I'm also not the one building the equipment. I guarantee you there are plenty of things that are affecting it that we have no idea about, that they can't tell us, or we couldn't understand even if they did.
Oh, exactly.
So I think overall, the people that it's hurt the most, obviously, is the homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, that's who it gets passed down to.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the end of the day, Mrs. Jones is who's gonna bear the brunt of all of that, because distribution, I can't eat 6% every time there's an increase. You can't eat 6% every time there's an increase. But, there's no telling Mr. Manufacturer, well, I'm not taking that. Like, well, you are, or we won't cut your orders loose because your pricing won't match. I mean,
I mean, if you look, even think about it. I remember when I first got in the trade, I bought like 2 drums of 410A for like $120 or something like that. Now you try to get a drum, you're talking $300-400 almost.
Yep. Well, there at one point it was like $600. It went through the roof.
Oh.
And then then
we're
it's
buying
back down.
We're buying pallets of it at a time just to try and get a deal, or you know what I mean.
But no, that's what happens. So, kind of as we start to wrap this up a little bit, I've gotten to where one. Did you bring a crawl space confession to the show? So, like, what is your worst absolute install experience where you're just like, screw this, I'm almost done? Or what's just some crazy job you've had to deal with?
We get a lot of critters around here, snakes and stuff.
There we go, critter stories. It's been a while.
Yeah, so one, we his old house, probably in like 1960s or so, and had a bunch of ductwork that like all was falling apart and just like really wet down the crawl, and I jumped down there, and it's just a disaster to begin with. And we start going through there, and there's this raccoon like laying right in the middle, just probably been laying there dead for a month or so. We had to like roll. I literally cut the plastic around the vapor barrier. It just rolled them back up. I was like, this is too much. And then another time we were in the crawl and we're sitting by the unit or whatever, and all of a sudden I just see like 4 feet of this black snake go from the crawl into the guy's like walls and up into the house.
Oh no, thank you.
And we just watched it, and I was like, and the one kid was like, grab it. And I'm like, no, like that's not my. Like, I'll let the dude know. And he was like, I was like, you definitely got a snake there, like in the house. He's like, I know. I'm like, all right, man, whatever.
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah, so I'm not terrible with like anything like that. I mean, if it's venomous, I'm sure. Like, not about it. But a couple other guys I work with aren't the big snake guys, so that's usually when I have to go in.
Now, you ever play any tricks on them with some good rubber snakes?
Oh yeah, the Armaflex is a good one too.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Just slide it up next to them. Just
Yeah, just slide it right up between their legs. They don't even know. They think it's a big black snake.
oh, jeez.
But,
Oh, that's a not safe for work joke.
no, not at all, right?
All right. So, any other shout outs you want to say for anybody you thought you might have forgot, or anybody? Let them rip.
I got a list right here. So, Wolf of HVAC, Reliable HVAC, HVAC R, Ash Kills, HVAC Guy 1, Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, Ben HVAC Strong, Jeff Dem, Logan with Snow King, Luis HVAC 562, Visionaries intern on parole, and Tyler Dines. There we go. We'll end it with that one.
Solid core group of people. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Garrett, thank you so much for your time. You look damn good in that HVAC R&D hat. I'm going to send you some other stuff in the next couple weeks before the show gets out. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Everybody, please go make sure you follow Garrett. It's G Torre HVAC. That's GTORRE HVAC. And also the HVAC Visionaries. Follow them on Instagram. Also, please go follow the show at hvac.rnd on Instagram and TikTok. Find us on LinkedIn, Trade Hounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D Podcast. Go listen to us on Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, Apple. Like and follow the show. Listen to us. Leave a review. Share us with your trade crew. If you want to work with me, reach out to me through hvacrnd.com. And don't forget to go use AHR for 25% off anything you get out of the swag shop. So thanks for listening, trade crew. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great next week, and I'll catch you later. Peace.